Mary slid onto the stool next to her anyway, the scent of garlic and smoked paprika hanging heavy in the air, her heart pounding like the flamenco guitars echoing from a nearby alley. She'd come to Spain on a whim, fleeing the sterile corporate grind of her graphic design job, and the ghost of a lover who'd left her for a man with a corner office and a comb-over. At 28, with her short auburn curls perpetually windswept and her freckled cheeks flushed from too many late nights sketching in hidden plazas, Mary was the kind of queer girl who wore her heart like a badge, proud, unapologetic, and a little too quick to invite strangers into it. Barcelona had been her reset button. Sun-drenched mornings in the Boqueria market, afternoons lost in the labyrinthine streets of El Born, evenings chasing the elusive thrill of connection in dive bars where the locals eyed her American accent with amused suspicion. Tonight, that thrill had led her to La Bodega del Diablo, a hole-in-the-wall joint tucked behind the Cathedral of Barcelona, where the walls were papered with faded bullfight posters and the bartender poured vermouth like it was holy water. The place was a pressure cooker of expats and artists, the air thick with the tang of olives and the low hum of secrets. Mary had been nursing a glass of Tempranillo, sketching the curve of a waiter's jaw on a crumpled napkin, when she spotted her, the woman at the end of the bar, hunched over a half-empty plate of patatas bravas, her long black hair pulled into a messy bun that screamed, trying too hard to look casual. She was dressed down in a threadbare linen shirt and khaki pants that hung loose on her frame, scuffed boots propped on the brass rail, but there was something off about her. The way her fingers gripped the fork too precisely, like she'd never eaten off chipped ceramic before. Mid-20s, Mary guessed, with olive skin that glowed under the dim lights and brown eyes that darted like a deer sensing hunters in the underbrush. Mary didn't plan to say anything. She never did. Connections just happened to her, like stray cats finding their way to her fire escape back home. But the woman's solitude was a magnet, pulling at the empathetic core Mary had spent years honing through therapy sessions and pride parades. "Mind if I join the pity party?" Mary quipped, sliding her sketchbook onto the scarred wooden counter. The woman looked up, startled, her full lips parting in a half-smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Up close she was striking, high cheekbones, a smattering of faint laugh lines that suggested she'd once known joy but had buried it deep. "I suppose not," the woman replied, her voice a soft lilt that carried the faint polish of old money, though she masked it with a shrug. "Valeria. And you?" "Mary. From the land of endless coffee and existential dread." Mary grinned, signaling the bartender for 2 more glasses. "What's your story? Lost tourist? Runaway bride? Secret agent?" Valeria's laugh was genuine this time, a low ripple that warmed the space between them. "Something like that. Escaping a life that doesn't fit." She poked at her cooling potatoes, her gaze flicking to Mary's hands, ink-stained, callous from gripping pencils. "You. Artist in exile. Trying to figure out if the grass is greener on the Iberian Peninsula, or if I'm just allergic to commitment." The words tumbled out easy, lubricated by the wine, and before she knew it, Mary was launching into tales of her Seattle life, the queer book club that doubled as a therapy group, the tattoo of a rainbow anvil on her wrist symbolizing her blacksmith-strong resolve after coming out at 20. Valeria listened, really listened, her head tilted, absorbing every detail like parched earth drinking rain. As the bar emptied, the conversation deepened. Valeria admitted she was from New York, a city that chews you up and spits out the bones, but skirted details, deflecting with questions about Mary's sketches. "Show me," she urged, and Mary flipped open her book to pages of swirling gaudy-inspired whirls and portraits of street performers, their faces alive with passion. Valeria's fingers brushed Mary's as she turned the pages, a spark igniting that neither acknowledged but both felt. By closing time, the rain had stopped, leaving the cobblestones slick and shining. "Walk with me," Mary asked, her pulse thrumming. They wandered the narrow calles, the city's pulse syncing with their own, the distant strum of a guitar, the laughter spilling from open windows. Valeria confessed fragments. A family that expected perfection, a career that felt like chains. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm even real," she murmured, stopping under the arch of a Moorish doorway, the shadows playing across her face. Mary reached out, tucking a stray lock of hair behind Valeria's ear, her touch lingering. "You're the most real thing I've seen in months." It was that vulnerability that sealed it. Back at Mary's tiny Airbnb in the Ribera district, A sun-faded apartment with creaky wooden beams and a balcony overlooking the Santa Maria del Mar. Mary offered more than wine. "Stay for dinner," she said, rummaging in the fridge for chorizo and eggs, her heart in her throat. It wasn't seduction, it was invitation. A queer ritual of breaking bread to bridge the chasm of loneliness. Valeria hesitated, then nodded, shedding her jacket like old skin. They cooked side by side, Mary's hips bumping Valeria's in the cramped kitchen. Laughter bubbling as eggs splattered the stove. Over mismatched plates on the balcony, under a canopy of stars pierced by the church's silhouette, they talked until the night air chilled their skin. Valeria's hand found Mary's across the table, tentative at first, then sure, fingers interlacing like puzzle pieces long separated. When their lips met, soft, exploratory, tasting of salt and sweetness, it was a revelation, a quiet storm that promised more than fleeting heat. They fell asleep tangled in sheets that smelled of lavender and sea salt, Mary's head on Valeria's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of a heart she never wanted to leave. Dawn crept in like a hesitant lover, painting the room in hues of rose and gold, and Mary woke to the sound of Valeria humming an old jazz tune, something Billie Holiday-esque, pulled from the depths of a hidden playlist on her phone. It was disarming, this domestic glimpse. Valeria in Mary's oversized flannel, sleeves rolled up, brewing coffee in a dented mocha pot she'd found on the counter. "Morning, sleepyhead," Valeria said, her smile shy but radiant, handing over a steaming mug. Mary's stomach flipped, not from the caffeine, but from the way Valeria's eyes lingered, tracing the curve of her neck like it was a masterpiece. They spent the day like thieves stealing time. A lazy breakfast of pan con tomate dragged out with stolen kisses, then a meander through Parc de la Ciudadela, where palm trees whispered secrets and rowboats dotted the lake like forgotten dreams. Mary sketched Valeria there, capturing the way sunlight filtered through her hair, turning it to silk threads. "You're dangerous," Valeria teased, peering over her shoulder. "You see too much." "Only what's worth seeing," Mary replied, her voice husky. It was easy, this rhythm they fell into, effortless as breathing, charged as a summer storm. By afternoon, they were back in the apartment, bodies entwined on the worn sofa, exploring each other with the reverence of pilgrims. No rush, no demands, just the slow unraveling of guards, whispers of "I needed this" and "don't let go." Valeria's past hovered like a shadow, but in those moments it dissolved, leaving only the now. That evening they ventured to the beach at Barceloneta, the sand still warm from the day's sun, waves lapping like applause. Mary kicked off her sandals, linking arms with Valeria as they strolled the water's edge. "Tell me something true," Mary prompted, toes curling in the surf. Valeria paused, the sea breeze tugging at her clothes. "I haven't felt this free in years. Back home everything's a performance. Here with you I'm just me." Mary's heart swelled, that queer ache of recognition, the exhaustion of code switching, the joy of being seen without masks. She pulled Valeria close, their foreheads touching, breaths mingling. "Then stay just you. For as long as you can." But shadows lengthened, and with them came the first cracks. Valeria's phone buzzed incessantly in her pocket, a sleek device that clashed with her bohemian facade. She silenced it each time, but Mary noticed the tension coiling in her shoulders. "Work?" Mary asked lightly, over gelato cones melting in the heat. "Something like that." Valeria's smile faltered, and she changed the subject to Mary's dreams, the graphic novel she'd been outlining. A tale of two women navigating a world that tried to erase them. Mary poured out her soul, describing heroines who fought not with fists but with art and unyielding love. Valeria listened, enraptured, but her eyes held a secret storm. Nights blurred into a haze of intimacy. Candlelit dinners scavenged from markets, bodies mapping each other under the hum of ceiling fans, conversations that stretched till the roosters crowed. Mary introduced Valeria to her ragtag circle of expat friends, queer folks from across the globe, gathered in a graffiti-strewn cafe for poetry slams and shared joints. "She's a keeper," whispered Lena, a tattooed Dutch photographer, as Valeria charmed them with stories of New York's underground jazz scene. Mary beamed, her hand finding Valeria's under the table, a silent vow forming. Yet doubts crept in like fog off the sea. One morning while Valeria showered, Mary's gaze snagged on a forgotten wallet peeking from her bag. Crisp bills in euros and dollars, a black Amex card glinting like accusation. Valeria Voss, it read, embossed in gold. A quick Google on her laptop. Mary couldn't help it, yielded hits. Heiress to Voss Enterprises, a media conglomerate worth billions, daughter of a Wall Street titan. Photos showed her at galas in designer gowns, arm in arm with power players, her smile polished to perfection. The woman who'd burned Paya with her last week? A ghost, a disguise. Betrayal hit like a rogue wave. Mary slammed the laptop shut, chest heaving. When Valeria emerged, towel-dried hair dripping, Mary confronted her, voice steady but laced with hurt. Who the hell are you, really? Because the Valeria I know doesn't carry cards that could buy this city. Valeria's face drained of color, the towel slipping from her grip. Mary, I can explain. But the words tumbled out in fragments. The pressure of boardrooms and arranged alliances, a fake engagement to a rival's son to seal a merger, the desperate flight to Spain disguised as a backpacker. I wasn't lying about us. About this. She gestured wildly, tears welling. You were the first real thing in so long. Mary recoiled, the sting of deception burning. Real? You let me fall for a lie. She stormed out, the door slamming like a guillotine, leaving Valeria alone with the echo of her own unraveling. Days passed in a blur of avoidance. Mary threw herself into work, commissions for local murals, sketches that bled anger onto canvas. Her friends rallied, dragging her to beach bonfires where she drowned sorrow in kana after kana. But sleep evaded her, haunted by the ghost of Valeria's touch. Whispers reached her. Valeria hadn't fled back to New York. She lingered in Barcelona, haunting the same streets, a shadow seeking redemption. One stormy afternoon, as thunder rumbled over the Sagrada Familia's spires, Mary found her in the apartment, key copied in secret, sitting on the balcony with a bottle of Mary's favorite Rioja and a stack of letters. I didn't come to beg, Valeria said, voice raw. Just to say I'm sorry. And to give you this. She slid over the bundle. Handwritten apologies, one for each day they'd shared, interspersed with pressed flowers from their walks and Mary's sketches, annotated with Valeria's thoughts. Your lines capture the ache I feel here, beside a drawing of the sea. Mary's resolve cracked. You played me. How do I trust again? I played myself first. Valeria stood, rain mingling with tears on her cheeks. But loving you? That was the truest act of my life. The storm broke then, not just outside but within. As Mary pulled her inside, their embrace fierce against the downpour. Forgiveness wasn't easy, it came in fits, laced with arguments and silences, but it bloomed tentative as spring in the hills. Weeks wove into a fragile tapestry. Their reunion a dance on knife's edge, moments of searing passion undercut by the ever-present specter of Valeria's world. Mary insisted on truths now. Late-night calls dissecting Voss family dynamics, the suffocating expectations of a legacy built on cutthroat deals. Dad sees me as the pretty face for the firm, Valeria confessed one evening, curled on the sofa with Mary's head in her lap. Mom's the ghost in the machine, brilliant but broken by it all. I ran because I couldn't breathe. Mary traced patterns on Valeria's thigh, her touch a bomb. Then don't go back. Stay here. Build something ours. It was idealistic, quintessentially American in its bootstraps optimism, but Valeria's eyes darkened. It's not that simple. The merger, it's tomorrow. If I bail, it tanks everything. The conflict simmered, bubbling over during a weekend escape to the Costa Brava, where turquoise coves and pine-scented trails promised respite. They hiked to a secluded beach, picnic basket brimming with figs and manchego, but tension shadowed their steps. You're choosing them over us, Mary accused as waves gnawed at the shore. Valeria whirled, frustration etching her features. I'm choosing survival. You think I want that life? But it's my cage, and you're asking me to burn it down with no net. Words escalated, sharp as shrapnel. Mary's accusations of cowardice, Valeria's retorts of naivety. They parted furious, Mary trudging back to the rental car alone, tears blurring the cliffside views. That night, in a cliffside inn with walls of weathered stone, reconciliation came not in grand gestures but quiet surrender. Apologies murmured into skin, bodies seeking what words couldn't mend. I hate this pool, Valeria whispered as dawn gilded the horizon. But I love you more. Back in Barcelona, the drama intensified. Mary's mural commission. A vibrant queer history wall in the Izampel district drew crowds, her art a defiant shout against erasure. Valeria attended the unveiling, incognito in sunglasses and a scarf, pride swelling in her chest. But paparazzi whispers followed. A tabloid photo of Valeria's fiancé, shopping in Soho, arm candy on display. The call came that night, Valeria's phone exploding with demands from her father. Get your ass to New York. Now. She boarded the red-eye, leaving a note. I'll fix this. Wait for me. Mary crumpled it, betrayal's bitter taste resurfacing. Days stretched into agony. Empty apartment, sketches abandoned, friends' concerned glances. She channeled the pain into her work, painting Valeria's face into her murals. Fierce, unbowed. A lesbian icon amid rainbows and revolutions. Valeria's absence unearthed old wounds for Mary. Flashbacks to Seattle. The ex who'd promised forever then ghosted for normalcy. The family that loved her but prayed for healing. In a dimly lit therapy circle at the local LGBTQ+ center. A converted chapel with stained glass saints gazing benevolently. Mary spilled it all. She makes me feel seen, but what if it's all smoke? The group's empathy wrapped her like a quilt, reminding her of resilience's quiet power. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Valeria stormed Voss Tower. A glass monolith piercing Manhattan's skyline. The boardroom was a viper's nest. Her father, Harlan Voss, silver-haired and steely, flanked by suits with shark smiles. Valeria, darling, you've had your little adventure. He cooed, but his eyes were ice. The merger pitch droned, synergies, valuations, but Valeria's mind wandered to Barcelona's salt-kissed air. Mary's laugh like sunlight. At the signing, pen hovering, something snapped. No, she said, voice echoing off mahogany panels. Gasps rippled. Harlan's face purpled. This deal, it devours souls. Including mine. Chaos erupted. Accusations of sabotage, threats of disinheritance. Valeria walked out, heels clicking defiance, straight to the airport. But betrayal lurked. A leaked email, her confession twisted into scandal fodder, splashed across headlines. Voss heiress flees merger. Cites personal crisis. Mary saw it first on her phone, heart plummeting. Calls went unanswered. Texts echoed in void. Desperation clawed, was this the end? Another queer love story truncated by the world's cruelty? She paced the Ramblas, tourists blurring into anonymity, until a familiar figure emerged from the throng. Valeria, disheveled, dragging a battered suitcase, eyes red-rimmed but alight. You came, Mary breathed, collapsing into her arms amid the human river. I chose us. Valeria's grip was iron, but the victory was Pyrrhic. Alerts buzzed, lawsuits looming, family severed. They retreated to the apartment, barricading against the storm, but cracks widened. Mary's trust frayed anew. What if you run again when it gets hard? Valeria's response was a vow, sealed with a kiss under the balcony stars. Yet doubt lingered, a third wheel in their bed. Autumn descended on Barcelona like a velvet curtain, leaves turning amber in the Poblenou parks, mirroring the burnished glow of their rekindled flame. Valeria, cut off from her fortune, scraped by on freelance consulting. Ironic gigs for startups that echoed her old life but on her terms. She moved into Mary's apartment officially, their lives intertwining like vines on a trellis. Shared grocery runs to La Boqueria, mornings tangled in sheets, evenings debating Audre Lorde over homemade paella. Mary's graphic novel progressed, inspired by their saga. Shadows on the Sangria. A tale of disguised hearts finding harbor. But conflict brewed beneath the idol. Harlan Voss wasn't one to yield. Private investigators shadowed their steps. Anonymous letters arrived. Come home or lose everything. Valeria burned them in the sink, but the poison seeped. One night, after a particularly venomous voicemail, "You're throwing away your birthright for a phase," Valeria shattered. "It's not a phase. But you. You make me question if I'm worth fighting for." Mary's heart fractured. Don't put that on me. I didn't ask for your drama. I asked for you. The argument spilled onto the streets, voices rising in the quiet aura, drawing stares from night owls. Mary stormed to a nearby plaza, sinking onto a bench beneath Gaudier's whimsical lampposts, sobs racking her frame. Valeria found her there, contrite, offering not excuses but action. Let's get out. Really out. To the countryside, start fresh. They fled to a finca in the Penedès wine region, a borrowed stone cottage amid rolling vineyards, where the air hummed with cicadas and the scent of fermenting grapes. Isolation healed in dozes, lazy hikes through olive groves, picnics where they fed each other grapes, bodies rediscovering solace in the dappled shade. "Here it's just us," Valeria murmured, tracing Mary's freckles like constellations. Love deepened, romantic in its rawness. Sunset toasts to our empire of two. Dances in the kitchen to Nina Simone vinyls salvaged from a flea market. Yet betrayal's ghost resurfaced, insidious. A letter arrived via courier. Harlan's olive branch or trap. Terms: return for the merger, inherit the empire with a discreet payout for Mary to pursue her art elsewhere. Valeria's hands trembled reading it aloud, temptation flickering. It's security. For us. Mary's world tilted. Security? Or a buyout for my heart? Accusation flew, wounds reopening. You'd trade me for a throne? Valeria denied it, but the seed of doubt germinated. Sleepless nights followed, Mary sketching feverishly. Portraits of Valeria as Icarus, wings melting in golden light. The climax shattered on All Saints' Day, when Harlan descended in person, helicopter whirring like judgment over the vines. He strode the dirt path in bespoke loafers, silver fox charm masking the predator. Valeria, enough theatrics. Over coffee in the cottage's herb-scented kitchen, he laid it bare. The company's brink, her irresponsibility the cause. This dalliance, he sneered at Mary, who stood rigid by the stove. It's charming but fleeting. Come home. Valeria wavered, eyes darting between father and lover. Mary's voice cracked the air. Choose Valeria. Him or the woman who sees you. Not the heiress. Silence stretched, taut as wire until Valeria rose, voice steel. I choose the life I want. Not the one you scripted. Harlan's face twisted, fury, then resignation. You'll regret this. He left, chopper fading into twilight, but not before slipping Valeria a final barb. She's using you. Like all of them. Doubt poisoned the well. That night paranoia gripped Valeria. Was Mary truly in it for love? Or the thrill of rebellion? A snooped email confirmed fears. Mary pitching their story to a publisher. Anonymized but raw. Art from life. Mary defended when confronted, tears streaming. Not exploitation. I thought we were building something real. Real? Or material? Valeria hurled, packing a bag in blind rage. She fled to Barcelona, crashing at a hotel, the city's neon a mocking echo of her isolation. Mary, gutted, drove through pouring rain, pounding on the door until security intervened. Days of radio silence ensued, their love a casualty of crossed wires and inherited toxins. Friends intervened. Lena staging an intervention in a smoky bar. Queer elders sharing tales of loves lost to societal blades. Fight for it, they urged Mary. But know your worth. Empowered, she composed a letter. Not digital but inked on thick paper delivered by hand. Confessions of fear, affirmations of devotion, ending with, You're my plot twist, my happy ending. Come write the rest with me. Valeria read it in the hotel's clawfoot tub, sobs mingling with bathwater. The betrayal? A mirror to her own deceptions. She returned at midnight, finding Mary on the balcony, rain-soaked and shivering. I'm sorry, they chorused, collapsing into each other. The storm outside paling against their inner tumult. Winter cloaked Catalonia in mist and chill. But within their shared life, warmth kindled anew. Tentative at first, then fierce. The betrayal's scar tissue toughened them, forging a bond resilient as the ancient olive trees they'd planted in the finca's soil. Valeria rejected the empire outright, selling her shares for a modest sum. Enough for freedom, not excess, and dove into philanthropy, channeling Voss resources toward LGBTQ+ causes. Funding Barcelona's first queer youth center, scholarships for artists like Mary. Redemption's in the doing, she told Mary one crisp morning, as they shoveled earth, hands muddied and linked. Mary's graphic novel launched to acclaim. Shadows on the Sangria, a bestseller in indie circles. Its proceeds seeding a foundation for queer creators in exile. Reviews hailed it. A drama of disguise and desire, where love unmasks the soul. At the signing event in a cozy El Raval bookstore, surrounded by rainbow banners and supportive faces, Valeria stood beside her, no longer hidden. Their kiss, public unapologetic, drew cheers, a quiet revolution in a city of secrets. Yet drama lingered, human and inevitable. Harlan's health faltered. A heart scare, irony's cruel jest, prompting a fraught reconciliation. Valeria flew to New York alone, Mary insisting, "Go. Family's messy, but it's yours to mend." In the sterile hospital room, overlooking Central Park's skeletal trees, father and daughter circled warily. "I was wrong," Harlan rasped, voice frail. "Pushed too hard. Lost you." Tears bridged the chasm. Not full forgiveness but a truce. Letters exchanged, holidays tentative. Back in Spain, Mary wrestled her own ghosts. A call from Seattle, her mother bridging years of distance with "We miss you." And "We get it now." Pride swelled, progress incremental as waves shaping stone. Their life wove richer. Summers in the Pyrenees, winters hosting potlucks for their chosen family. Bodies aging gracefully into deeper intimacy. Valeria's laugh lines deepened beside Mary's crow's feet. They adopted a rescue dog, a scruffy mutt named Echo, who bounded through vineyards like joy incarnate. The emotional core anchored them. Quiet nights where vulnerabilities surfaced, held without judgment. "You saved me," Valeria whispered once, tracing Mary's tattoo under moonlight. "No," Mary replied. "We saved each other. From ourselves." High drama revisited in spring, when a Voss rival sued for defamation, dredging their story into tabloid fodder. Reporters swarmed the finca, flashbulbs piercing the peace. Is it true? The heiress and the artist. A scam for sympathy. Valeria shielded Mary, but the toll mounted. Sleepless nights, Mary's hands shaking on her brush. The trial in Madrid was a circus. Lawyers in pinstripes, headlines blaring lesbian love or corporate lie. Testimony stripped them bare. Mary's earnest sketches of their early days, Valeria's emails renouncing wealth. Harlan testified unexpectedly, voice steady. "My daughter's choices are her own. And braver than mine." The jury ruled in their favor, vindication sweet but secondary to the truth they'd always known. In the aftermath, they retreated to that cliffside from their first real fight, the Mediterranean a sapphire expanse, wind carrying whispers of forgiveness. There, on a blanket strewn with wildflowers, Valeria knelt. Not in proposal's cliché, but vulnerability. "Marry me? Not for show but for us, the messy, beautiful us." Mary's yes was a sob, sealed with a kiss as gulls wheeled overhead. Their wedding, a year hence, blended worlds. Barcelona's sun-baked plazas for the ceremony, queer officiant reciting vows in English and Catalan, Harlan in the front row beside Mary's beaming parents. No tiaras or tuxes, just linen dresses fluttering in breeze. Rings forged from recycled Voss gold. A feast of tapas and toasts to endurance. Years unfurled like a well-loved book. The center thrived. Mary's second novel, a memoir of sorts, Valeria's foundation global. They mentored young queers, their home a haven of art and activism. Echo grew gray-muzzled, chasing fireflies in twilight. And through it all, their love, dramatic, human, profoundly romantic, endured. A testament to choosing each other amid betrayals and tempests. In the end, it wasn't perfection they found, but wholeness. Two women unmasked and unafraid, writing their legacy on the world's wide canvas. For in the heart of Spain's sunlit soul, they'd built an empire not of stone, but of spirit, unbreakable, eternal.